What's going on, guys? Welcome to another camera comparison. Today, well, this morning I am in the Netherlands, Amsterdam to be precise, on a secret mission, and actually on the way over here I got to fly the plane. Not really. Yeah, what you're seeing right now is the selfie footage on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. I'm going to switch to the Galaxy S24 Ultra, and then you guys will see the brand new iQoo 13. This is the phone that we're really focusing on in this camera comparison. Okay, this is the Galaxy S24 Ultra. I don't know if you guys can notice it, but the way the high dynamic range is handling the sun behind me, it's not quite the same as the iPhone. Can you see that there? Anyway, the reason we're focusing on the iQoo 13 is because it's actually the first phone to have the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip. It's the latest one from Qualcomm. It's going to be the flagship in 2025. And with that comes a bunch of new advanced image signal processing. Of course, I want to see how the sensors and the optics hold up as well. So let's see how that looks now. All right, so this is the iQoo, and interestingly, it looks like it's adding some kind of a bokeh effect, the blurry background effect by default. I haven't enabled that at all, and I do think it looks kind of nice. Let me know how it looks. And also, let me know which microphone has done the best here during this intro. And I'm going to take a photo right here. I'm actually walking to the airport right now because I'm going back to England. So all the night shots are going to be in England. Anyway, let's get some photos on the way to the airport. Okay, so this is the rear video quality on the iQoo 13, stabilization on. It looks pretty stable on the screen. How's it looking to you guys? Let's switch to the iPhone. Okay, this is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, stabilization mode on. How's this comparing to the iQoo? Also, this is a good opportunity for you guys to hear the microphones again, but this time when shooting the rear video. Galaxy S24 Ultra with the stabilization mode on. Sun's starting to come up now. This one's looking pretty stable on the screen. Let me know which one looked the most stable to you guys. I've got to pick up the pace because I'm going to be late for my plane otherwise. So yeah, let's crack on and get some photos. There's a nice tower over there. Let's do a zoom test on that and see which one looks the best. Okay, so before I share with you my thoughts on the camera performance, it's important that you note the iQoo 13 at the time of this video is just a couple of weeks from its release date. So there's likely to be lots of camera updates that optimize the performance in the coming months. So this does make your feedback on this camera comparison very useful, because if the iQoo team sees this video, they may just implement some of your suggestions. So what I'm getting at here is definitely chime in the comments with your own feedback. Okay, so this is the 10x zoom photo, and at first glance, quite surprisingly to me, the iPhone seems to have performed the best, followed by the Samsung Galaxy and then the iQoo. But you know what time it is? It's time to truly see which one's the best, and zoom in 220% on this photo and see which one tells the time the best on that clock. And I'll let you be the judge here. Which one do you think won? Okay, so this one is what I call a point and shoot photo. Zero effort involved. I literally just took the phones out of my pocket, opened the camera, pointed them in the right direction and pushed the shutter button. And this comparison may seem unfair as the iQoo and the Samsung both focused on the background and the scenery, but the iPhone focused on the foreground. Now, while it wouldn't be fair to compare the details here, there is a takeaway in regards to camera AI scene recognition. The Android phones automatically knew that I was trying to take a picture of the reflections in the buildings, but the iPhone prioritized the railing on the bridge. So this really comes down to camera AI. Anyway, let's not focus too much on the foreground details here. So moving on. Okay, so I was dragging my suitcase down this cobbled street and I spotted a stoned Super Mario with a magic mushroom on his hat. So of course I had to snap a photo, and I used the ultra wide here. So there's quite a noticeable difference in the brightness between the three phones. The iQoo, in my opinion, has actually done a good job in this area because it is the brightest, and if you zoom all the way into the distance, even the brightest point of the photo is not overexposed. And I do believe the stoned Mario looks the best on the iQoo as well. But you may disagree, so let me know in the comments. Now here's another ultra wide, and this is a great example of the different brands' approaches to color. in regards to their wide angle sensors. Honestly, the most true to life here is probably the Samsung, but what surprised me here is the iPhone is leaning into the cooler tones. Normally in all the other tests that I've done with the iPhone in the past, by default it does tend to lean into warmer tones. Anyway, on the iQoo 13 photo, I think the camera AI has gone a little bit wild here. It almost looks like it's applied an Instagram filter to it straight out of the camera. The water is kind of aqua green, and the sky has some added magenta, and even though it's not quite true to life, it does look kind of awesome though. Now, the high dynamic range test, and this kind of test doesn't really get more extreme than this. I'm shooting directly at the sun here. And it's important to know this isn't just a test of the camera sensors. The results heavily depend on the quality of the lenses and the lens coatings, as well as the post-image processing, which is handled by the chips used on the devices. So at first glance, I think most people would choose the iPhone 16 here as the winner, but look how much it's crushed the details on the bridge and on the post in the foreground. Now, this doesn't matter so much if you're going for that kind of silhouette look. The other two phones, however, have put more effort into balancing the entire scene as much as possible, but both the Android phones are showing lens glares here, and this is probably due to the fact that they've really tried to brighten up and lift the shadows in this image. Or it could be down to the lenses used. Okay, so this is the photo I've been dreading. This is the face of a man who's literally been working 10 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 3 months. So forgive me for my battle-worn appearance here. So let's start with the iPhone. In true iPhone fashion, it has turned my face into a tomato. There's just far too much red, but the details look good here. And if I was wearing a reindeer costume, this would be perfect. And you could call me Rudolph. The iQoo 13 has done a good job of smoothing out all of my battle scars and wrinkles around my eyes. And see this line here on my forehead? I got this whilst trying to figure out why in Amsterdam there was a bottle opener on the wall next to the toilet. Anyway, the Galaxy takes the win here in my opinion. Best colors and best handling of the highlights, and it's really nailed my skin tones. But the 32 megapixel sensor on the iQoo is impressive, and I say that because check this out. Look how much eye detail there is here on the iQoo 13 in comparison to the other two. Okay, so I'm calling this one the vanishing point test. Somewhere back there in this photo, taken at Amsterdam Central train station, is the point where the details will come to a stop, kind of. But let's see which one holds the most detail at the furthest distance. And I'm gonna let you guys call this one. Which one won here? So this is a portrait selfie, and I double checked, this was taken in the portrait mode, and this is clearly an area where iQoo needs to update the software because it's not really doing anything at all. It hasn't added any blur. So iQoo developers, if you see this video, please fix this mode. Anyway, this is really just between the iPhone and the Samsung, and they're both quite close. Edge detection on both are quite precise, and the background blur is nice. There's different levels of background blur though, so it really comes down to what you prefer. But I will say the iPhone seems to have done a better job in regards to the textures of my jacket. So I'm at Schiphol Airport now on the way back to England, and it just reminded me to explain to you guys how I ended up in the cockpit on my EasyJet plane on the way out here. So basically, when I was leaving, they announced over the sort of tannoy on the plane that the plane was going to be on the runway for an hour and 40 minutes. So then I decided to get the laptop out, start editing my Sonos Arc video, and then they announced if anyone wants to come to the cockpit to meet the pilots, they could. And no one was really going for it, so I thought, why not? I had the 3 phones with me, maybe I could convince the pilot to take 3 pictures for me in the cockpit, and that's what happened. So let me know guys, be honest, how is the iQoo 13 holding up against the Samsung and the iPhone, 2 of the best from 2024. Keep in mind though, the iQoo is really not a phone that's focused on camera, and iQoo is kind of the sister company to Vivo, and the Vivo phone, those ones really specialize in photography. So I will be getting one of those, and I'll do a similar video on that versus some other phones. So let me know what phones you'd like to see it against. And also guys, this is the second opportunity to compare the video quality and the mic quality in a pretty noisy space. Anyway, now back to England. Okay, so we will get a closer look at that plane shot, but first, here's a rear portrait photo of my chosen noise cancelling earbuds for this particular trip. the Battles & Wilkins Pi6, and I am going to be reviewing these and comparing them to the Pi8. So if you want to see that, make sure you're subscribed and turn on your notifications. And I have to apologize straight away. I messed up the angle of the Galaxy picture here. But anyway, the noticeable difference is here, to my eye, is the iQoo and the iPhone really nailed that edge detection well. The iQoo is slightly more aggressive with the amount of blur, and it seems to be adding a bit too much warmth to the picture, which does work nice, but my skin tones just look unusual. The Samsung has much cooler tones, but has lost some edge detail on the lid a little bit, and that's probably my fault for holding the buds at the wrong angle. And I do feel like the Galaxy is adding way too much blur, and this is just the default setting here. So you can turn it down or turn it up if you want to. So I do think this is a win for the iPhone 16 Pro Max. That gradual increase of blur into the distance is really nice, and the slight softening of the edges around my hands and the lid make it look less artificial to me. But what do you think? Anyway, at this point I was running late for my flight, so I had to hastily make my way to the gate, which was much further away than I thought in Schiphol Airport. But then I had to stop, because there's always time for a cheeky half pint of Amsterdam's finest, even if it is 9 AM in the morning. Alright, so here's that cockpit shot on an Airbus A320, and this picture was very kindly taken by the pilot of the plane. There's lots of light, lots of colour, and a Top Gun level pilot at the controls. So yeah, it's a good picture. Notable differences here, in my opinion, the most accurate colours are between the iPhone and the Galaxy. The iQoo is clearly too warm, and this is probably due to the phone oversaturating the colours in post-processing. In terms of details though, let's see. I'm going to zoom in 200% on that radar on the dashboard so you can get a closer look. So what do you think? You call it. So this was an awesome experience, and many thanks to the pilot of this plane for taking this one for me. And it's worth mentioning, he really liked the iQoo's colourful ambient light feature on the back of the phone, and that's an area that the other two phones can't even compete with. But anyway, swiftly moving on. So this is a portrait shot on the rear cameras. Apologies for the framing, this was out of my control. And this is my face when I realised I'm going to have to pay the government for a new passport soon, as I'm nearly out of passport pages. And not because I've been going on holiday a lot, I've been traveling a lot for these kind of press events. Anyway, this is interesting because the Galaxy and the iPhone have done well, but check out this unusual distortion on the blinds behind me. The iQoo has made my skin silky smooth, and this phone just seems to love doing that.
I just want to make people silky smooth.
But maybe it's just a little bit too much, and the blur effect is best described as minimal. Yes, you can manually adjust the levels of blur, but I'm a fan of minimum effort, maximum results. All of these would literally just point and shoot with the default portrait mode. So let me know which one's your winner. So as soon as I got home, the dog took a seat at the dinner table and was looking at me like, "So, it's you're back. What are we having?" So these pictures are interesting because the dog is particularly difficult to photograph, not only because of the colour of her fur, but the fact she never sits still. And quite often the phones will crush the details in her fur, as opposed to adding all of the fine details that you might see. So let's zoom in around the eye area of the dog and see what we can see. Honestly, in my opinion, the iQoo 13 takes the win here in regards to detail and sharpness. But when we zoom back out, the color on the chair is a good reference point for me personally, because I know what color it is, and the most accurate gray tone shown in the photos here is definitely on the Galaxy. Now let's move on to some lower light settings. Here's a Starbucks hot chocolate, and let me know, which one are you drawn to instantly? If I was to guess, I'd say most people would be drawn to the iQoo 13 photo, as by default it seems to be using AI scene detection to the maximum, and it's enhanced all of the colors, the saturation, and it's really made this photo bright and vibrant. And the reality is the other two photos are more accurate and more true to life. However, I do notice some added blue in the Galaxy photo, which gives it a cooler look. So maybe this is a win for the iPhone, but do let me know if you disagree. Okay, this one's interesting as the iQoo is clearly the brightest and most colorful, and again it stands out from the crowd, and it's done a really good job of containing the highlights whilst lifting the shadows and not ruining the picture in the process. Which one looks the best here in your opinion? And I will say, based off of how it looked to my eyes at the time, I'd have to say the Galaxy is the most realistic of the three. But does that make it the best photo? That is the question. Now, a night selfie, and I must say there's a huge difference here, and that 32 megapixel sensor on the iQoo has really come into play, and it's done a great job at gathering more light than the other two phones. However, some of the highlights on my face might be a little bit too bright. The iPhone has given me a shade of orange that even Donald Trump would be jealous of. And the Galaxy has done a good job, but in some areas it's quite soft around the edges, particularly around my hat. And before you say it, yes, I did clean the camera lenses before taking this picture. So before we move on, there is something else very significant I noticed about these three photos. Man, my face is getting fat. And I have no idea why. Anyway, let me show you this burger picture. This was a tasty burger, and I actually shot this at midnight in the hotel room in Amsterdam when I had just arrived. I got this from Uber Eats, and I've actually got a funny story about Uber Eats in Amsterdam, but ain't nobody got time for that right now, so let's get back to the pictures. The lighting was bad, the burger was good. And the worst burger shot here in my opinion is on the iPhone. It just refused to catch focus at the same distance as the other two phones. It kept switching to the macro, which is not its most powerful camera. So this was kind of the best I could do. So in my opinion, it's between the Galaxy and the iQoo here. And again, the most realistic of the two is the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, but if you prefer the more enhanced colors and the more eye-catching photos straight off of the camera, then you might prefer the iQoo. Both look good to me, but which one looks the tastiest to you? All right, on that note, I'm getting hungry again, and I just want to say thanks so much for coming along on this camera comparison journey with me. Don't forget to leave some feedback for iQoo in the comments because they might just see it, and I appreciate you guys for sticking around all the way to the end of this video. And if you did enjoy it, don't forget to leave me a comment. If you just subscribed, you are now one of the finest subscribers known to man, and I will see you in the next one. Don't be late.